Hey you guys, thanks for checking in again today. Today we're going to do a little video on garlic harvesting and some updates from the homestead here. I want to thank you guys for staying on top of our videos and supporting, and obviously the likes and subscribes go a long way, so thank you guys. So I just put a video out showing kind of the updates here in spring, all the growth we're having in the beds, and I'm so happy to see all this. Finally, the wind has died down. We had some extremely windy days, so it's nice to see some of that dying down and things leveling out. And most of the beds are full. So I just had planted a bunch of summer squash, watermelons, cucumbers, some other stuff in the greenhouse that will be coming out here. But I'm finding that even with all the beds I have, there's never really enough space for the amount of food that we're trying to grow. So what's going to be important in the years to come is a little more planning, obviously, but just trying to decipher which beds have what to begin with, and then when we do our succession planting, what we're going to transition those beds into. So it's really a lot of planning that goes into that. But I'll try to crop as intensively as I can, which is something I didn't really do well in this first area here that I had started, which is by the greenhouse. So today we're going to be pulling up garlic from these two beds on the outsides, and I'll show you. I will order some more dependable garlic this year to plant in the fall, but what I did last year just to get stuff in the ground was honestly from the grocery store. So I just took individual cloves, planted them in the ground, and everything was growing really well through the winter. I planted those in October, and then January, February, they were looking great, and they just started tipping over and kind of drying out and dying. So I was hoping to get to July and let those continue to grow, but I think for sake of just getting these out of the ground and getting some other stuff in there, I'm going to pull them. Here's an example of one I pulled. They're not as big as I maybe had hoped, but still that's a good amount of cloves of garlic that will dry. So first I'll get these out of the ground, and then again in the fall I'll probably plant a heck of a lot more, but order some good varieties of garlic that we can rely on, and then each year I'll save a portion of those cloves to go back in the next year, and we should be able to do pretty well with that. So the hope is obviously to have enough for us to use throughout the year and store, but also to sell some at the farm stand. So most of these shoots here are kind of tipping over. This was all very intensively cropped with garlic, so you see there's not much left, so they've all kind of tipped over. So I have some digging to do, and then there's some fresh stuff that actually started coming up. I don't know if you can see here. I'll try to show another clip. It died, and then not died, but tipped over and then started pushing up a new sprout. So I'm curious to see what those look like under there, if it's splitting off into a secondary bulb or whatnot. So a little bit of a trial. And the other thing that I kind of did with these beds that I'm learning from is originally these beds were thinner, the walkways were thicker with mulch, and what I did was I extended the beds to 4.5 feet, so a little bit on each side, new compost, but it went on top of the existing mulch that was there. So I think until that mulch really breaks down thoroughly, a lot of the nutrients are getting sucked into that mulch, and it's a little bit harder for the roots to get down through. So there might have been some nutrient loss due to that, but hopefully that'll improve in the next year as that mulch continues to break down. The soil's looking really good under these first beds that I've made. So now I'll stick with the 4.5 feet wide and just continue putting compost on those in the fall. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what's going on in the greenhouse real quick, what I planted, and then we'll get digging and see what we can find garlic-wise. So as the temperatures are rising here in Georgia, the greenhouse gets hot quickly. It's now 94 degrees in here, which is substantial. I've not had any issue with stuff getting burnt in here. So I don't try too hard besides the exhaust fans that I have going here and some circulation fans. But it gets up there. It's sometimes in the high 90s. So what will happen in future years, I'd like to get a Caterpillar tunnel that has a little more airflow to it, and I can always improve this here, but this is a great seed starting location for everything in the winter months. And then also this year I'm doing the tomatoes and peppers, which you guys saw, and you'll see they're kind of starting to really do well. I'm going to train those tomatoes up the wall, and then we have peppers and eggplant in the front rows. So this greenhouse will be really tight this year, but everything's doing really well. And then we have some perennial stuff in here like goji berry, sage, rosemary, oregano, a lot of spices, tarragon. I just put some horseradish root in there, which is coming up really nicely. So we'll fill this space, make use of everything we have here, propagation-wise, and hopefully get a caterpillar tunnel that might allow for tomatoes and peppers and all that stuff next year. And then here we have the melons, cucumbers, all sorts of melons that I planted that I got from Baker Creek, which has some really great rare seeds and heirloom seeds. So we're trying some different watermelons this year, cucumbers, melons, and then I have more peppers coming up. So again, we have our stuff for the farm stand and our peat pods. And then we have our CD60 trays from Charles Dowding that I use for our stuff that goes into the garden. And then anything we don't sell through the farm stand goes into the garden. So that garden is gonna be full this year. Nothing wrong with that. And then the produce will make its way out there. So we're gonna get started on the garlic. It's a beautiful day, 82 degrees, and it's gonna get hot quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started digging here. Continue digging here, but already look at some of these awesome cloves. That is so cool. So this one kind of had like a second little sprouting deal on it. So they're ready. They're big and heavy. There's a couple smaller ones, but they actually did really, really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and collect as many as I can find in there. I should have probably started a little sooner so that I didn't lose track of where the dying ones went. And that's the thing with no dig too. Of course, there is some digging involved with trying to get vegetables out of the ground, especially your root vegetables, but you try to not turn over too much of the soil to keep that structure there, that mycelial structure, the microbial structure and whatnot, and those highways that all those organisms are taking that help benefit future plantings. But with things like this, you kind of just have to dig, especially when you lose your vegetables. I'm sure that some of the garlic that I don't find will start sprouting up again in the future. So I'll probably find some next year that were in this bed. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep digging, and then I'll show you guys once we start to cure these and get them cleaned up. So something you can never be too excited to find in your garden is earthworms and fungus. Amazing qualities of a healthy soil and healthy garden. And about 10 of the cloves I've dug up so far have had earthworms crawling through the cloves, which hopefully as gardeners, none of you think that's too gross, but that's an amazing quality to the soil. So I'm really, really excited to see that. And also some fungal matter on the tops of these beds too. That's an incredible quality, and I'll keep digging. I'll show you guys what we're getting. Well, we're walking by. I'll show you guys quickly. The wash and pack station is evolving. So I've got my Tough Stuff bin here ready to go. I got a bubbler from Farmer's Friend that I'll be excited to share with you guys. Once that's set up, this is where we'll wash all the greens. And then I have my workstation, which is just getting set up with my vegetable scale, all my packing materials, my mill for flour that we stone grind here. And so that's all getting set up. And then very excited about the new commercial refrigerator that we have. This is where I was debating back and forth about a walk-in cooler, but I thought just for the scale we're at right now, I think this makes more sense, a little more affordable, and something that'll have plenty of room for most of what we're growing here, as well as my seeds to keep everything fresh for the year, and flour and stuff like that to keep everything nice and cool. So we have our freezer here. This is mainly family use, but that's been great. And then we'll have this awesome fridge here too. I have an electrician coming Monday just to get the garage set up because we only had one outlet in here and it's been running too much. So we're gonna get that set up and then we'll get this thing plugged in, hopefully in the next week or two. And that'll be just in time because lettuce is starting to come up here, bok choy and a lot of that stuff that'll need to get wash bagged and stored until our stand is open or orders online. So this is the first year of getting everything up and going, but very excited to see how it goes. So let me go show you what we did with the garlic. So another station that'll be helpful eventually is a cure station somewhere I can dry and cure a lot of our different things that we grow, root vegetables specifically. But for now, they're on the front porch on our wood pile, which is also curing, firewood pile. But look at all this garlic. I'm so excited. That came up from just those 2 beds. And I left some in there that was smaller, that was kind of shooting up again, so we'll let that go for a little bit longer, and I'll probably get a small second harvest towards July, I would imagine. But we're gonna let all this cure here for the next couple days, see how it goes. I was informed not to wash this. You wanna keep the moisture off of it as best as possible. So I'm gonna scrape off as much dirt, brush off as much dirt as we can, and then what we'll do once it's dry is we'll cut off the roots. Oh, there's Wiley. Hi, Y. That's funny. And then we'll cut them about here, or we'll braid them. But I also kind of learned that if you keep on the stalks and the roots, it's going to continue pulling energy and try to keep growing, basically. So you really want to inhibit that, keep everything dry, and then we'll store what we need for our homestead. In the basement, we have a small cold storage room that's just naturally cement and cold, which is perfect for this. And then we'll probably sell a good bit of this in the farm stand. Garlic seems to be a popular thing for folks, at least it is in our house. So I'm excited to see if people buy it. But yeah, so in a future video, I'll probably show you guys some of this hung up in the farm stand. But really, really happy with that harvest today. So excited. So thank you so much, guys, for sticking around and watching this video. More to come. Check us out at www.hawkinsfarmandharvest.com, where you can see what we're doing here on the homestead, what we're selling and what we're interested in. And then also we're going to be getting into flowers here soon as well. I just made a big wholesale order of daylilies, which my dad is a hybridizer of. So I'm excited to get started, put some beautiful flower beds out towards the front of our property and start growing those and selling those, which will add a lot of beauty to the property, bring in the pollinators, and then down the road we're probably going to start to hybridize ourselves and maybe breed some specific varieties of interest. So I'll share more of that as we get going. But thank you again. Have a wonderful whatever day it is for you, and we'll have more videos soon.